ESPN released an article, and they have none other than Trey Hendrickson as the perfect fit in Green Bay. Tell you what, ESPN, I tend to agree. We're going to break down the possible trade, everything that would come with Trey Hendrickson, and everything that's happened with him over the last couple of months in Cincinnati in just a couple of moments. But before that, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. Multiple reasons. We give you free content every single day on your Green Bay Packers. But another reason is we are battling Vikings now, our Vikings channel right here at Chat Sports. And we've been doing it all May long. We currently are 8 subs behind. But hey, just 10 of you guys need to hit that sub button. We'll be back in the lead. I need you guys to help me out. Do me a big solid. Let's take down the Vikings right now. ESPN released an article earlier this morning that was labeled Best NFL Team Fits for Remaining Free Agents and Trade Candidates, and they listed Trey Hendrickson as the best trade fit for the Green Bay Packers. Matt Bowen had more on the edge rusher. After being granted permission to seek a trade in March, Hendrickson is refusing to play with the Bengals until he receives a new contract. If no deal comes together, Green Bay would be the perfect landing spot for him, as he'd pair well with Rashan Gary and Jeff Hafley's defensive system. Lucas Van Ness, a 2023 first-rounder, is still developing at this stage, so there is a path for Green Bay to add more to its D-line. Trey is a relentless defender off the edge and with a deep toolbox and counters and a knack for making plays late in the down. This would be a big-time get for Green Bay's defense, which tied for the 8th most sacks last season with 45. I'm just going to start off by saying it's nice to know that I'm not the only one, that we're not the only ones that see this fit perfectly, okay? I've talked about it ad nauseum over the last couple of months as these Trey Hendrickson trade rumors have kind of started and kept going up until now, that Trey Hendrickson is the perfect fit for Green Bay. With the lack of consistent pressure last season on Green Bay's defensive line, sure, they got a lot of sacks, but we all know that defensive line was absent at some big times in the season. And with what Trey Hendrickson has been able to do over the last couple of seasons, 17 and a half sacks in each, he's the missing piece, okay? I've said it before. I'm going to say it again, and I'm probably going to say it 4 or 5 more times along the course of the next couple of months. Trey Hendrickson is this team's missing piece. If this team wants to take that next step, if this team wants to compete for a Super Bowl, they added Matthew Golden and Savion Williams in the wide receiver room. That is set, okay? If Jair Alexander decides to run it back, I feel good about the defensive back room. All they need is a dominant edge rusher that can change the course of not just games, but seasons. You add in Trey Hendrickson, a guy who's amassed 35 sacks in the last 2 seasons, you can compete for a Super Bowl, okay? Weigh in for me down below in the comment section. What should Green Bay do with Hendrickson, okay? Should they trade for him or should they pass on him and say, let's just run it with the guys we got? Let me know by commenting down below, T for trade or P for pass. I want to spend the next couple of minutes looking back in the time machine, okay? Let's play this game with me. Let's go back and see the defensive talent that has surrounded Green Bay's franchise quarterbacks in the past 5 decades. Let's start with Bart Starr. He had Willie Davis, Hall of Famer. Herb Adderley, Hall of Famer. Willie Wood, Hall of Famer as well, okay? Let's go to Brett Favre, because he had some pretty solid defensive stars around him as well. Reggie White, Hall of Famer. Leroy Butler, Gabe Wilkins. Aaron Rodgers also had the pleasure of playing with some really solid, hopefully, possibly future Hall of Fame defensive players as well. Clay Matthews, A.J. Hawk, Charles Woodson is a Hall of Famer. Guys, it's like Jordan Love, in my opinion, deserves a star defensive player as well. It's easy to look back on the last 3 franchise quarterbacks that this team has had and say, man, they were so amazing. They were so talented. They did so many great things. And that is true, right? Brett Favre, Bart Starr, Aaron Rodgers are 3 of the best to ever do it at that position in this game. But what can also be true is they got a ton of help on the defensive side of the football. And as of right now, it's hard to look at this defensive roster and say there's a definitive Hall of Famer. There's a definitive star. Jordan Love needs one. This team needs one, okay? And it's been an up and down past couple of months with Trey Hendrickson. It's kind of hard to keep track of what has happened. So let's catch you up on all of the latest. March 6th is when it came out that Cincinnati was giving him permission to seek a trade. Then 11 days after that, it was reported that Cincinnati is working to retain Trey Hendrickson. Everybody kind of thought it was over. And then Katie Blackburn, the external vice president for the Bengals, was quoted by saying, maybe we'll find a way to get an extension done. Then Trey Hendrickson went on McAfee the day after that and said that Katie Blackburn's comments, the EVP, he thought it was an April Fool's joke and that it was really, really upsetting. And then, this happened last week, spoke to the media at the Cincinnati Bengals practice and said that he won't play on his current deal. All in all, the Bengals have been bangling, okay? They've been doing things that we've seen this franchise do for a very, very long time. They're cheap. They don't like to pay their good players. They make dumb decisions, and that's why losing franchises stay losing franchises, okay? I get it. They made it to a Super Bowl a couple of years ago. That's great for them. They didn't win it, right? And now they've missed the playoffs last season, and they have a star right in front of them that they're just kind of playing games with, refusing to play, and it's making Trey Hendrickson upset, as it should be. This is what he had to say to reporters last week. They've done right by their own perspective. My perspective is different. It's become personal, unfortunately. Sucks for that Cincinnati Bengals front office. What they've done this year, they've stayed busy, right? They extended Jamar Chase. They extended T. Higgins. Totals of $161 million and $115 million. The guaranteed money for each of those receivers is $73.9 and $45.9 million. They've been paying those guys, and they paid Joe Burrow, and now in 2025, their cash due is $35.2 million, $19.3 million, and $35.9 million. If I do a little bit of quick math, add those all together, that's about $91 million they've got due to just those three guys. And with that being the case, with that being just the state of their front office, the state of their finances, I kind of think it'd be dumb for Cincinnati to pay Trey because that's another $36 million a year. That's a lot of cash due. That's a lot on the cap. And that would be like, it feels like 50% of their cap space would do to 4 players. I love Trey Hendrickson. I think he's wonderful, but they've already kind of handcuffed themselves enough that I think it'd be dumb for them to pay Trey Hendrickson. However, it would be incredibly smart for Green Bay to. Because that's the thing with Trey Hendrickson. It's not just trading for him. It's paying him after you trade for him. If it was just trading for him, he probably would have been traded by now. There's probably hundreds of teams. I say that hyperbolically because we all know there are 32 NFL teams. But there are probably hundreds of teams knocking on Cincinnati's door saying, we want Trey in this building. But it's the fact that you got to pay him and also give up something to trade for him. And he would probably require a good little chunk of change. Right now, Myles Garrett is sitting at $40 million a year, the highest paid edge rusher, the highest paid non-quarterback. And I don't think that Trey Hendrickson would want that money. He's already stated he doesn't need Myles Garrett money. However, I do think he wants to be second on that list. So honestly, look at Danielle Hunter, give him $37 million and call it a day. Jack, do you mind popping up that player 2 stat comp for me on Trey Hendrickson and Danielle Hunter? It's like he deserves it. If Danielle Hunter is getting $35.5 million, just up it by $1.5 million and give Trey Hendrickson the bag because they have the same amount of tackles. Hendrickson had more tackles for loss. Hendrickson had 5.5 more sacks, more pass breakups, more forced fumbles. He's more productive, and he's doing it on a defensive line that's far worse than Houston's, meaning he's the only true edge rusher that Cincinnati has. He's the only guy that any other team, any other opposing offensive line has to worry about. That's not the case with Danielle Hunter. Everybody looks at that Houston Texans offensive line. They probably think Will Anderson first, and then they think about Danielle Hunter, who's still a great talent. And so Trey Hendrickson looks at that. He sees that production. He says, you know what? If he's getting 35.5, why don't I get more than that? I deserve more than that, and I think he does. So the trade for him, we talked about this last week, it'd be a good bit, but like it wouldn't be anything earth-shattering. People think it's going to be a first-rounder. I don't think it is. I think you give a second-rounder. If you're a bad team, you could probably give a third-rounder because you'd be picking early in the first. But we all know Green Bay is probably going to be picking somewhere in the mid to late 20s in next year's draft. And so I think it'd have to be a second-rounder, and then you'd have to extend him on top of that. But you know what? You're in a position to win a Super Bowl. You are in win-now mode, and you have $31 million in cap space. Do it. Make the move. Take a risk. Would you guys accept this trade? If the Bengals were the ones that offered it to you, what would you say? A for accept, D for decline. Let me know your answer in the comment section right now. Green Bay's defensive line was good last year, okay? 45 sacks, 6.9% sack percentage, tied for 12th, tied for 8 in both those respective numbers. They were good, but they weren't consistently great. And I think that's my biggest shtick with them, right? A 35% pass rush win rate, not a ton of QB pressures, not a ton of QB pressure percentage. And then when you look at the individual statistics, again, it's nothing that blows you out of the water. It's nothing that blows your mind. And we saw Philadelphia give you the blueprint of how to win a Super Bowl, how to compete in the postseason. It's getting to the quarterback. Guys, they absolutely dominated Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl last year. He couldn't breathe, and they did it without freaking blitzing. Vic Fangio didn't blitz. And they still disrupted Patrick Mahomes. They forced multiple interceptions, multiple turnover on downs. They sacked him a ton. They pressured him even more than that. He couldn't breathe. That's how you win a Super Bowl. With a good front four, with a great defensive line, being strong in the trenches. And right now, Green Bay is fine. They're good up front, competitive. But if you want to be a Super Bowl winner, you got to have a little bit more than just competitive. We're going to get out of here, but make sure that you guys follow me on social media before you do as well. You can find me at Joey Petersen 8 on both of those platforms. The links to my Twitter and Instagram will be in the comments and description of today's video as well. And make sure if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. We're still battling our Vikings channel all May long. We still got only 12 days of May left. You guys help me out and subscribe.